Well, we say it each and every year when there's devastating fires around the southwest that the CFA volunteers around our patch and indeed right across Australia and Victoria and on the front lines even tonight, the work that they do to save properties and then even after the fire has spread, the cleanup and the recovery efforts they all put in to help those communities is absolutely second to none. And I'm really pleased to be joined by Dave Ferguson from the CFA. And David, you've been on the front line with your teams and obviously monitoring a lot of situations. And what a 24, 48 hours it's been.
Yeah, incredible, Liam. No front line for me, unfortunately. I'm more of a backroom helper, but you're right, those comments around the efforts of volunteers and all emergency services in I think there's 18 municipalities that are now in a state of disaster. And it's a significant day in fire history in Victoria, but significant efforts to try and mitigate and help people, help communities. Yeah.
The first thing obviously we need to chat about is just the devastation at Skipton. That fire front was quite aggressive. Just speak about the efforts in the lead up to obviously the evacuation and what's transpired in the last 24 hours there.
Yeah, really strong wind fire that drove that fire. The classic wind, it was coming more from the west and just drove it straight along 20 or 30 kilometres in an hour or two. And that fire's got to about 20,000 hectares now. I think it stopped spreading today or last night, but clean-up underway. But yeah, reports from our people, we've sent quite a few people, volunteers from District 5, a couple of 4 strike teams up there. We've got 2 strike teams coming home at the moment and just reports back of a lot of major losses of stock, property, buildings and sheds and crops and infrastructure. I haven't heard of houses, but I'd be surprised if there weren't some houses lost as well. So truly devastating for the southwest, Liam, and our area here. Yeah.
And what about the efforts of crews on the ground? Obviously, last night it probably sort of skipped in around sort of 6 o'clock, 6:30. Obviously, it was a pretty aggressive fight to try and, I guess, do what they could.
Yeah, I reckon early days the tactics really went probably to asset protection and stay safe, which is what we do there. There's fires that we just can't fight, as best our equipment or as poor as some of our equipment is. We struggle to fight them, and so asset protection until they can get to a position where the fire mitigated a bit, slowed a bit in when it got cooler and the wind dropped away, and we're able to support and save Skipton. Fire sort of went to the south of Skipton a little bit, but a lot of people on the ground. And a shout out, there's a lot of CFA crews, but in that area, there's a lot of people with their own private fire trucks. So many community members and farmers who have their own, an ex-CFA tanker or a small unit helping out and supporting each other in a blitz on that fire, but still due to the conditions weren't able to fully suppress it and stop it.
Yeah, and then I think obviously it wasn't safe to return most of today. I think that sort of got lifted as the day went on. What did today involve?
Yeah, today mopping up, what we call mopping up, blacking out, so patrolling the edge. And, in any firefight, you're attempting to stop the head of the fire, to stop it progressing. Then we've got to go back and make sure it doesn't escape. So the concern today was a strong wind. People in the southwest would have noted the wind today and that could have put pressure on what containment lines we had in place. So they were successful in keeping it within the box, I suppose. But, specifically from our crews, they were patrolling the edge, putting out bits that might not have been put out yesterday. I know one crew, the Mount Rouse strike team from around Penshurst, went to a haystack fire, went to a power line down because that type of infrastructure is damaged. Supported the community there. So often there's farmers, the CFA people stop and give them a drink of water and, how are you going? And sometimes that little sort of just that touch of humanity really helps people as well. So, our firefighters, as well as fighting fires, will support the community. And so I think everyone up there was a lot of resources on there today, 5 or 6 strike teams, another strike, a strike team is 5 trucks and a lead vehicle. So a lot of people there tonight again and into the early into this week and next, there'll be more people there just doing that and consolidating the fire to make sure that in the event of more hot, windy weather that doesn't escape.
Yeah, and while the Skipton fire really arrived sort of, mid to late afternoon yesterday when it really started to sort of encroach on Caramballica, the like last night around places like Bukar and a couple of other towns, Glen Ormiston, I think Simpson, around that area. Then, of course, down to Kennedy's Creek, Scotts Creek. there was a real aggressive little patch of lightning strikes, and I just couldn't believe just how fast some of those fires got out of hand. But again, crews, particularly the Glen Ormiston fire, which I know got pretty close to some houses and some property, they just really
Mm.
swooped on it.
Yeah, absolutely. There was a really long band of lightning. It started off probably north of Mortlake, right down into the Otways, but then it extended way back up into the Grampians. So lightning often with the change of the air will come as it comes through cold fronts and the like. The lightning will follow that. So a long band ended up from Zumsteins to, as you pointed out, the Otways, but in and around Mortlake, Warndoo, and down in those areas you mentioned, and even up around Glen Thompson and Dunkeld. Lots of lightning strikes, just creating little fires. And that Glen Ormiston, I think we ended up putting about 10 tankers on that one to pull it up. So lightning's a real issue for us. So all those fires last year, people will recall last fire season, lots of fires from lightning. Same things happened here. So I understand everything around the Nurut, Glen Thompson area and Mortlake as well, all pretty much contained and put out. But the ones down in the Otways, Carlisle River, Kennedy's Creek, and further down on Cape Otway continue to really give us some trouble today. And I think they'll continue to give us some trouble, unfortunately, into tomorrow and during the week.
Good segue, because I'm about to talk about Kennedy's Creek and Carlisle River, and I know there's some really tough terrain that crews are battling down there at the moment. I know the wind, would have played a factor today, and that's really hard area to fight in there. And I know you've had some aerial support, despite obviously some really strong winds, which would have probably
Mm.
also worked against ground crews. How are we tracking around the Otways? Because I do know that there's still some pretty active alerts down there, and obviously it's a long way away from being controlled.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just looking at my map here now. Liam, the Kennedy's Creek fire is up to 2,150 hectares, and that's along it looks like the Jellybrand Road, sort of around Chapel Vale. Carlisle River Pipeline Road fire, that's about 1,200 hectares. Yeah, strong winds, and the wind will always dictate, well, sometimes in this country, topography, but wind will generally dictate the direction the fires take. And so they've spread sort of from the southwest to the northeast, but uncontained at this point in time. I'm not sure actually how much containment lines in that country. We really, and forest fire management are heavily involved in these as well. Often we do try and put a control line, a mineral earth control line around these fires to stop the spread. So that's really difficult in the country, as someone would probably quote it as goat country, Liam. So I think these fires might continue for a while. I would suggest there's an incident control centre, or there is an incident control centre in Colac that's been formed and is being boosted up. They'll form some strategies around back burning, and that's often the only way you can contain these fires, to come out to the private land or to a track or a road and put that back burn into place. So I think that they are difficult now, and they will continue to provide some difficulty for us. So yeah, good luck. Well, no, seriously, good luck to the people in CFA District 6. They've had a lot of support today from other districts, especially CFA District 7, which is Geelong based. We haven't sent any people down yet of some incident management team people, but I expect we may well end up in CFA District 5, which is Moornshire and Southern Grampians, giving some help there, and City of Warrnambool giving some help there as well. But yeah, a long way out of the woods down in that part of the world.
Yeah, it's a worry, and I know from a statewide perspective yesterday, I've never seen the map quite so active. It was a busy day for CFA volunteers, and there's a lot that's been said about the CFA in recent times, and rightfully so. But yesterday, it's hard to imagine where we would be without crews all over the state. It was something to behold, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was amazing, and I think we knew we were in for trouble because we already had fires. To use a colloquialism, fires in the landscape. I'll probably have to pay someone some beer for saying that, Liam. But yeah, we had some big fires in the landscape, especially in the northeast, and what we know as the Longwood fire that ended up at 145,000 hectares. The Walwa one, which is out east of Albury, 94,000 hectares. I'm just sort of referring to a few notes. Sorry, there was 277 grass and scrub fires across Victoria yesterday, and 10 of those are still major, and an estimated 300,000 hectares of land have been burnt. So really difficult. There's the Natty Muck fire as well, which went into Natty Muck as well and was threatening Horsham for a while. That's at 8,000 hectares. We sent some crews there from around Hamilton, out of District 5. Had some crews there last night and then again today, helping out with that one. And so, yeah, significant fires: Ravenswood, Longwood, Grass Flats, which was Natimak, Yarrow, Yiwi, Streatham, Walwa, Carlisle River, and Mount Mercer out near Meredith, out the back of Meredith. There was concerns that a fire might have come into Meredith yesterday, but all those pretty much contained. There's another big fire out the west of Dargo as well, which is sort of uncharted territory. And many people thinking back probably to 2003, 2006, when we had what we called the Great Alpine Fires, which went for weeks up in the bush. So potentially we're moving into that campaign rhythm in CFA. And even this evening, Liam, today we had the call to send some crews from the southwest to Albury to help fight the fires up there. So I've just come in from the airport at Hamilton. We put some people on an aeroplane there this evening, volunteers to go to Albury. Some have gone from Portland, and a little bit later this evening we'll send some from Warrnambool up to Albury to fight those for a couple of days, fighting those fires, and we potentially will continue to do that into the future. So that spirit of volunteerism, volunteers have had a lot of hard knocks in the last year, and so many have found it a little bit difficult to remain committed to the cause. But for a lot of us too, that spirit is still there. And remembering too, we send white people away, but yesterday, really bad day. We sent 40 or 50 people away and 15 trucks, but we still had people at home ready to combat fires as they occurred here, as they did last night in around the Mortlake area and the Noorat and Glen Thompson, Glen Thompson areas.
A final question, Dave, I've got is how are the crews holding up? There's been some long hours. There's some big aggressive fights happening. It takes a toll. Obviously, a lot of devastation. Your volunteers not only are out there fighting fires, but they're humans as well. They see the human side of things. Obviously, animals lost, livestock, wildlife. There's a lot of elements there. I hope they're holding up okay.
Yeah, I think so. I can only speak for our people in District 5. We're a pretty resilient group. A lot of us, or most of us that are responding this year, had a pretty big year last year and saw a lot of stuff last fire season. And, we certainly look after each other, I think, is one of the key aspects of CFA in terms of going and helping each other fight fires. But when it comes to the recovery and checking with your mate, ringing up, are you okay? And doing that, there's a lot of that as well. Everyone probably tired. I think, we just got to keep in mind that a lot of our, I use the term workforce loosely, but also farmers and managing sheep or doing hay or looking at doing things with cows and stuff like that, as well as going and giving their time to CFA into the communities. They're just tremendous people. Fantastic
organisation, and no doubt lots of work to come. Obviously around Skipton and particularly around the Otways. It doesn't end tonight, tomorrow. It's going to take weeks and weeks and weeks, and I think that's probably important to know. While the fire fronts look like they're getting some headway, obviously some big ones that still got a long way to go. The real work kind of doesn't stop, does it? It just continues on.
Yeah, you're right. And Liam, you've summed it up pretty well there. Because, this is probably our first taste of summer for us down here. And we've been pretty green. We had all that rain through the second half of last year. And then now we're moving into the really dry period where we've got that, the grass is fully dried out. And traditionally, the worst fires occur around the end of January, start of February, if you think about, Ash Wednesday and Black Saturday, those dates. So potentially more to come, but we'll keep cracking away at it, mate, and do our best.
Well, we'll catch up again on Monday and throughout the week. Thank you very much for your time, and I know that everyone that has been impacted by these fires, we take our hat off to you and your volunteers and everyone that's just out there, round the clock trying to look after our community and look after yourselves, look after each other, and I guess together we'll look after our community.
Yeah, thanks, Liam. Thank you for your support too. I know you publish a lot of our warnings and information, and I think that's really good that you put that out in the community as well. So many people now rely, obviously, on social media for information alongside the traditional media. So thank you for your work.